Here's a look at a recap of your markets on this Friday, the 21st day of March. All I can say this week is the bulls have been turned out and they are charging. What a week in the cattle markets. We've said it the last several weeks in a row, new record after new record. But boy, some of the ones that were set this week just make you scratch your head and say, wow. We'll start off with the cattle and feed report. That report came in very bearish today. We talked about it a little earlier in the week, and of course, we knew those placement numbers were going to be lower than the all-time February record that was set last year. Some of that had to do with weather hampering the markets last year versus when the weather came this year. Just changing the marketing time of some of those cattle that would be placed in the feedlots. And of course, our imports from Mexico or lack thereof this year also playing into those placement numbers as well. But when all was said and done, the cattle on feed report today, very bullish. On feed numbers came in at 97.8. That was just slightly below the pre-report estimate, but within the range. Marketing numbers, they were almost spot on, 98.1 versus the 91.8 for pre-report estimates. The placement number, pre-report estimate, of course, was down 14% at 85.6, but when that number came in today, it was down 18% from last year at 82.2. So a very bullish report for this month's cattle and feed report. We'll turn now and take a look at the negotiated feedlot trade as of the 2 o'clock cutoff time. 49,440 head of negotiated sales. I'm sure there's some more sales that took place after the 2 o'clock cutoff time, but we won't get those numbers until Monday. But feedlot trade this week, once again, climbing higher. Kansas, they had just about 1,500 head at 209 to 210.50. Texas had just 4,000 head, 209 to 210. Things started to get exciting when we got to the north, as once again, the negotiated trade in Iowa and Nebraska really pulling this market along as those guys are really playing the game smart right now on the feedlot side. Iowa, just under 16,000 head, 210 to 215 on the live side. The dress sales at 330 to 340. Nebraska, they reported 17,538 head. Dress sales there, 332 to 340. The live sales at 212 to 215. Box beef cutout values. Choice slipped a little bit on Friday, but still higher for the week. It was down $2.61 on Friday, $325.45. Select at $309.82, up 26 cents. That made the Choice Select spread $15.83. Volume on Friday, 124 loads of cuts, trimmings, and grinds. Taking a look at some of the more local news now at the auction barns around the state this week. We'll look at some of the stick-out sales of some of the drafts, 20 head or larger. That Missouri Stocker formula on Friday, of course, that's based roughly on a 550-pound steer, 262.91, setting an all-time record. And, of course, the CME Feeder Cattle Index based on an 800-pound steer up through the 12-state feeding region. That set a new record high every day this week, the latest 287.78. Going back to the auction barns around the state this week, 20 head of 464-pound steers sold at Windsor Livestock Auction at $447.50. 36 head of 509-pound steers at Joplin Regional Stockyard sold at $409. The average price on those light 5 weights for the entire state this week at $380. 58 head of 577-pound steers at Joplin, $388. Interstate Regional Stockyards in Cuba sold 39 head of 601-pound steers at $358.50. Unionville Livestock Market, they had 21 head of 660-pound steers at $341. Kingsville Livestock Auction, they had 46 head of steers, 704 pounds, $319.50. The weighted average price now on those light 7-weight steers for the entire state at $309. 69 head of 800-pound steers at Green Sea Livestock Market this week brought $294.25. Then at Unionville Livestock Market, a full load of 862 pound steers at $293.60. Right after that, they sold another load of 942 pound steers at $274. Taking a look at the heifer side, 21 head of 511 pound heifers sold at China Livestock Market for $350. The average statewide on those light 5-weight heifers this week at $331. Kingsville Livestock Auction, they had 143 head of 743 pound heifers, $282.50. And if that wasn't high enough, right after that, they sold 38 more head of light 7-weight heifers at $285.50. The weight average price statewide on those light 7-weights this week at $274. Taking a look now at the futures markets, the cattle futures on the Mercantile Exchange, they did close lower on Friday, mainly some profit taking. Overall this week, those live cattle and feeder cattle futures, they were both $3 to $4, $5 higher in places. So gains for the week, even though there was some profit taking on Friday, probably not really anything to get excited about at all. We would expect with those reports, and the prices probably be up again on Monday. April live cattle on Friday, however, $1.52 lower at $206.95. June down $2.25 at $202.77. August down $2.47 at $199.35. March feeder cattle $1.87 lower, $286.47. April at $284.97, down $3.47. May at $285.10, down $4. Lean hogs for April $86.12, up 57. May at $89.65, up 105, and June $97.47, up $1.22. Turning our attention to the grain markets at the elevators around the state this week. Soybean bids for the week were mixed from 6 lower to 5 higher. Wheat was mixed 4 lower to a penny higher, and corn 5 to 9 cents higher. On Friday, corn bids at the elevators in the St. Louis region 471 to 473, Kansas City 424 to 458. Soybean bids in St. Louis 1029, Kansas City 954 to 1004. Wheat bids in St. Louis 542 to 558, Kansas City at 538. On the Chicago Board of Trade, on Friday, corn contracts, the May 4 3/4 cent lower, 464 1/4. July at 471 1/2, down 4. September at 444 3/4, down 2 3/4. Wheat contracts, May at 1009 3/4, down 3 1/4. July at 1021 1/2, down 3 3/4, and August 1016 3/4, down 3 1/2. The first 3 months of the wheat contracts all closed up a penny. May at 558 1/4, July 574 1/2, September 591. Soybean meal for May up $3.20 a ton, closing the week at $300.30. Soybean oil for May, $42.01 a hundredweight, down 70 cents. With the Missouri Department of Agriculture, that's a recap of your markets for Friday. This is Tony Hancock.